we evolved. We could see that the question that kept our attention was the call to widen the tent. It became clear that we are moving as the Federation has moved over the past 50 years, as an evolving, living federation. This awareness is one of the fruits of our contemplation. This evolutionary contemplative process continues to move the vision. One of the primary purposes of the Franciscan Federation has been for renewal and adaptation to the signs of the times. From the Sisters Formation Conference in the 50s, there have been varied names. Sister Formation Conference, a federation of Franciscan sister communities of the U.S., Franciscan Sisters of America, Franciscan Sisters of the USA, Franciscan Federation of the Brothers and Sisters of the U.S. Each of the names represents some growth and evolution of this federation. There have been a number of refigured structures, and the number of congregation members has changed from 30 founding congregations and changing numbers over the years, reaching as high as 68 at one point. There have been more than 4 different locations for the national office. The Federation evolved through the process of rewriting the rule and life of the brothers and sisters of the Third Order Regular, a unifying experience with numerous drafts and levels of involvement. It expanded beyond the Third Order Regular to include secular Franciscans in the mid-'80s and broadened to include a variety of laity and others. It has facilitated the development of a Franciscan prayer book, a common Franciscan novitiate, and has addressed social justice issues. This is only a partial list, but it shows the point that we have always been evolving. We continue now to read the signs of the times. They continue to provide a focus for the new to which we are being called. And now Nancy will bring us further.
We'd like to share with you what this committee considers the essence of the contemplative process together, and we'll continue to move forward. While we began with different perspectives, as stated earlier, through active listening and attentiveness, we have come to have common values and the realization of the importance of letting go of the I for the sake of the greater whole. We are being invited to live in the unknown. We have realized the task is not to reconfigure the Federation, but to enter into the vision of a more inclusive, expansive reality, the look of which we cannot imagine at this point. There is a conscious awareness that God is trying to create anew. Our task is to listen and to be open, and we believe that God is in our midst and that something new is unfolding. We have come to realize that to create anew is not possible in the present structure. It is about the struggle of letting go for the sake of something broader. The vision is broader than the Third Order Regular. And the question is, what do we have to depossess in order to bring something new to birth? We are clearer about what is ours to do. We have recognized the critical importance of a contemplative process, as we said, a Sabbath moment in a time for greater good. This is real clarity. Our own letting go happened because of the Sabbath process. Thus, in a spirit of generativity, we want to gift the world with what we have been given, the Franciscan charism and spirituality. The gift you have been given, give as gift. We have always been evolving and will continue to do so.
Rose now is going to share with us, with you, the context for our Sabbath year leading to the 50th anniversary celebration for the Federation. So Rose is going to give you the context for that. And the cards on the table that say Sabbath this will be for this section.
At one time, the members of our committee were thinking about getting buttons that said, "Ask me about the Sabbath." Obviously, it didn't go across very well. And we're not wearing them, but I would like to discuss just a little bit of a discussion or explanation on the two different ways we are talking about the Sabbath. In the past months, you received this Sabbath monthly reflection, and these reflections called you into the contemplation for the preparation for the Sabbath year, which will conclude next June in Milwaukee as we celebrate 50 years of a federation. As we celebrate that jubilee, we will be taking a Sabbath rest from the normal AFC meeting. It is a celebration. It's different. The book of Leviticus says, "You shall hallow the 50th year, and you shall proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants, for it is a jubilee. It shall be holy to you." And then Deuteronomy 15 and Exodus 21 further explain the Sabbath year to reflect upon the process of restoring justice to all, releasing the people from debt, and then keeping Pharaoh the land, so that all things are brought into relationships, the right relationships. So the Sabbath year, which we will be completing next June, is one dimension of keeping the Sabbath. But we would like to take a step, perhaps, to the more of a awareness of what could come in the future by calling you to a different or an additional Sabbath, that of Sabbath living. Now, some of you perhaps are already doing this. It consists of putting one day aside of each week to rest, to be spiritually enriched. In Genesis, we read, "God so blessed the seventh day and hallowed it, because on it God rested from all the work which God had in creation." So we have the example of the rest. Our Jewish brothers and sisters have attentively and faithfully through the years cultivated a unique quality of the Sabbath. A Hasidic rabbi, Zalman Schuller, says there is a disease rampant, a chronic, low-grade depression that never knows how to smack its lips and say, "It is good to be alive." It doesn't know the haven of a Shabbos in the bosom of an unhassled family. All the nostalgia we experience is a yearning for the Sabbath, to come home to the good mother, to one's being, homecoming with the body to the body, to rest, to eat, sing, loving, resting. And he concludes this quote by saying, "The Sabbath is long and full when one knows how to be beyond doing." Francis gave us examples of his need to shake off the dust that clung to him when he was spending time with friends and in the crowds. He knew how to spend time in ministry and then rest in the place of refreshment and renewal. You're right, we can't go for months on an island, nor can we find caves of solitude and quiet. But we can follow the practice of Sabbath living. Sabbath living is about relaxation and enjoyment, not prohibitions and deprivation. If we take time to rest, to stop working on problems, and if we give time to give thanks for what we already have instead of striving after what we do not have, we may allow ourselves to listen in a deeper way. We might even allow ourselves to have some fun. And isn't that listening? When we become still and bring all of our life to a rest, we can feel a renewal of energy. And with that energy often comes a gradual clarification of perception. Too often, the response to the question, "How are you?" is an answer of, "Oh, I am so busy." You're right, we are productive. We love to minister, and we are very good at ministering. But stopping to rest, stopping work, is a statement of trust. We don't admit it, but oftentimes our actions speak of our fear that the world will fall apart, or our communities will fall apart if I stop making things happen for a while. I have to get this done. Do we really trust that life is gifted and the Spirit moves through it? If we believe and trust, we might truly rest and taste this playful movement of the Spirit. We are made in the image of God, and Sabbath living is one way to free us to claim this identity. In today's Sabbath living, it is really revolutionary. For by ceasing and resting for one day a week, we proclaim that productivity and work are not the center of our lives. They are not the criteria for well-being. When we choose Sabbath living, we intentionally stop to be present, to notice, to take the long look of awareness. Isn't that what we heard this morning? To come to the beauty. There are many ways of doing it. A walk in nature, listening to music to find that inner calm, calling a friend to witness to the gift of relationships, resting, delighting in the deeper expression of contemplation, to rest at oneness with all of creation, to take delight in the gifts that we had of the past week. No, Sabbath living is not to plan and make your to-do list for the next week. It's to look back and to be grateful. Resting might also mean a nap or pondering the goodness of life. looking at what the future of goodness might hold, and to be open to the reality of change or growth, and in our case, the possibility of the Franciscan family. It is an opportunity to realize our real sanity, wherein we trust the Holy One living before and through us, and with whom we weave a unique thread that contributes to the tapestry of the kingdom. The purpose of Sabbath rest is, and I've said this several times, regeneration and reflection. We stop the ordinary so that we can critically examine what might be extraordinary, and in that we get a clearer perception and a perspective of what might be needed in the future. Sabbath living is not a private action. It's an observation of a social institution for the well-being of all and of all of God's creation. It's to be shared. Richard Rohr speaks of this dynamic as the mystery of participation. Judy Canato speaks of it as morphogenic fields. They say the same thing, but with different words. And we've all been introduced to that concept of evolutionary change, in which the whole is larger than the individual, yet the individual creates the whole. The collective power, or the collective action, has more power than the individual alone. So just imagine if all of us Franciscans here today started to do a very intentional Sabbath living, what that impact could be. We could be an evolutionary force for the future. And that is what this committee puts before you as a challenge. To participate in the Sabbath living will lead us to something more than we can imagine. It is our next step. It will be a way to enliven our Franciscan family and to help us to reach out in attitudes, prayer, and action to embrace and rest and feast in the future. It will be the connecting and the widening of our relationships, or to use a phrase, it will help us widen our tents. Sabbath living, that of each week, intentionally moving through ceasing, resting, embracing, and feasting, can change us as individuals, and it can change us as a whole. This action will draw us time and time again to contemplate our identity in God's image. We will feast in appreciation to the God who moves and is moving within us toward fullness. We will celebrate a glimpse of the immensity of God's ways rising from the center of our being. Individually and collectively, Sabbath living unites us all in the singleness of heart and the willingness to let God lead us through situations and into the future. We will come to gain a freedom as we realize our fuller humanity in the image of God that goes beyond productivity. And in all of this, we will delight to share with friends, a glass of wine perhaps, or a meal. We will feast on the goodness of life, for a simple Sabbath day is restorative and renewing and a celebration just in itself. However, Sabbath living is a form of foundational discipline. As we have received, we want to give in ministry, and the transformation is carried out with our attitudes and spirit into the work week. We are conscious of being loved by God and motivated to love in return. Love is the primary incentive to Sabbath living and opening our tent. On the table, you will find a card that helps you establish your own Sabbath living. If you don't have a card, please let us know, and there's some extras, so if you need a second or a third one, come and get it. The first step, though, to intentional living is the intention to do so. And hopefully you will be motivated, and you can motivate your community, and all of us, including the Franciscan Federation, will reap many blessings. The card outlines the 4 steps of keeping the Sabbath as outlined by Marva Dawn. The reverse side gives suggested ways to ritualize the Sabbath. So if there are other questions about that, the members of the Dare to Image Committee will be at the various commission meetings tomorrow, so you can talk to any one of us. May you and your community find a way of establishing or re-establishing Sabbath living. And may it be fruitful to you and to the future of the Franciscan family. May we know what to do to set the world ablaze with God's life and love. Peace and all good.
Thank you all for your participation, for the energy that you brought to this conversation this afternoon. And as I said, tomorrow we will have the paper so that you can reflect more on what everyone has suggested. And you will continue to hear from us as the year evolves. So thank you all. We are greatly appreciative of your energy and your contributions to this process. Thank you.